Hello and welcome to Front Row Racing. It's time for round 19 in Abu Dhabi for the World Series drivers. We could be in for a fantastic race this evening. Now we are just waiting a moment for Arazor to rejoin us. He was in with us, and for some reason Facebook is being a pain in the arse and not allowing me to share the link. So we will have to see if I can get that done now. So while we're waiting a few moments, I guess it's not too much of a problem, apart from the fact that it's really not letting me paste the link. Oh well. Right, well, like I said, we've got to wait a few moments anyway for a Razor to come and join us, so we'll retry copying the link onto Facebook. It's weird how Facebook has been doing this recently. It comes up saying, no, we don't want you to post this. If this is an error, please let us know. It's an error. It's what I want to share. There's nothing illegal about it as far as I am aware. We'll give it a quick retry now. So come along, Facebook, allow us to post what we want to post. Now, joining me in the commentary box this evening will be the boys 5 times. He said he'll be back in a few moments' time, so hopefully he will be with us any second. And with this being the World Series, we do have a commentary name for him, which I will announce when he is back with us. I do apologise. I am trying to see why Facebook will not allow me to share this. Unusual that. Oh, I do apologise, folks, but let me see. What I'll try and do is let's see if I can post the information, and then I will tag the link onto it. Okay, for some reason it doesn't want me to share the live stream link. That is ridiculous. I don't know why you would not allow us to do that, Facebook. Because it's what we've been doing for over 19 weeks now, and there is nothing dodgy about it. Okay, there we go. It's now in the comments on Facebook. Right, that means I can now close down my internet, and we can have a quick look in a moment to see whether a Razor has actually back online yet. No, he's not. Okay, we'll give him a few more moments to see whether he manages to get online. He was in the lobby, said he needs to do a quick reset, and that is what he is doing now. So we will give him a moment. Now, I've heard keys on the keyboard tapping away, so I'm not sure if the boys 5 times is back with us yet or not. I'd guess by the silence he's not. I'm sure I'll hear the commentary box door open when he is on his way in. So, Front Row Racing's World Series, it's been a fantastic season so far. We're obviously on round 19, the season finale, and we have our champion already crowned in the form of Konzo 1993. Currently sat on 276 points, got a nice healthy lead in the standings, and he's followed by Killer Corkin, his teammate, on 229 points. The Red Bull team have pretty much dominated World Series in points this season. And then we've got the Toro Rosso driver of Eraser on 176. Obviously, we are just waiting for him at the moment. Then we've got Richie Davery in Ferrari on 160. Rickster in McLaren on 139, but he's got a reserve driver in for him this evening in the form of Ant69. Then we've got Farfba on 119 for Williams, but he's not available this evening and hasn't asked for a reserve. Then Jason for Toro Rosso on 95 points. He too has called for a reserve, so he's got Acorn 95 in his seat this evening. Hybrid Nuke on 81 points. He's done very well since joining the league in Lotus. And then followed by Hindle in Sauber on 68 points, who has also called for a reserve. And his reserve is Temp Fear. And there is the boys 5 times. Evening, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, there's 2 of us here today. Joined by my son temporarily just before he goes home. Gonna say something?
Hello? That's about right.
He's just staring at the screen trying to get the headset off my head.
What's that? Okay, well, I'm going to keep going through the points. So followed by Hindle is My Bad for Williams on 62 points. And then Adam 4600 in the Lotus on 53, Charlie on 40 points for McLaren, and Nightwalker on 22 points for Sauber. He's got a reserve driver in, that's from Row Racing GP. And then we have Andy Russell in the Ferrari. Those bottom 2 drivers are both on 22 points. In the Constructors, Red Bull have taken that title on 500 points at the moment. Toro Rosso on 310. McLaren on 215. Ferrari on 208. Williams on 205. Lotus on 199. And Sauber on 151. Now, we have waited a fair few minutes for Eraser to get back on. He's not come back on yet. So, it looks like we're going to get going. And hopefully he can get on during the qualifying session. So, hopefully we're in for a great race this evening. Now, Pete, obviously you watched the World Championship last night, and I know you've watched a few of the World Series races now and again. So, is there anything that you would expect to be different or more exciting from the World Series this evening?
Compared to yesterday, it's difficult to say. I suppose if you watched the World Championship when you're racing here today, maybe there was a few examples that should be set, but again, every driver's different things work for different drivers. It's difficult to judge really, but I think that's what makes it exciting, because it's not exactly predictable every race.
Definitely.
It's everyone, yeah.
I mean, what I was going to say, definitely, and in the World Series, there has pretty much always been something happen in the World Series that brings us a major surprise. One of the things the drivers are going to have to be careful of at this circuit is the pit exit. As we both know, Pete, it can be quite a tricky exit, as you heard about last night and have now seen about. So, anything to say about the pit exit?
Yeah, just don't get on the curb while you're turning, and just, yeah, a bit slippery, so just be careful you don't turn into Austin Powers and in the buggy and trying to do a 3-point turn for 20 minutes. Exactly.
And if no one knows what we're on about there, I don't know, maybe we can get some footage out there of the first person, actually, as far as I'm aware, in front row racing to lose control of their car in the pit lane in that fashion. We've had Richie Davey in the past lose a wing in the pit exit here, but nobody actually prior to last night has spun it and ended up facing the wrong direction. Oh, looks like Konzo has retired, so he's taken up the Champions Challenge this week. And Eraser has joined us, so Eraser is going to be able to get in, but unfortunately he is going to be on the standard setup, which is pretty much 6.6 aeros and everything down the middle. But I'll be honest, that's not actually a bad setup for around this track. He may suffer a little bit on the straights, but he will be phenomenal through the corners. Also, quick mention of something for Konzo. Obviously, he is our World Series champion, and he actually wasn't going to be racing this evening because he had a date. So some may say, well, if he wasn't going to be racing because he had a date and now he's here at the circuit, what's happened? Well, she said that she's had to go to work and she's rescheduled it for next Friday. But my response to him was, what happened? Did she see a picture of you? But he seems to have taken it well.
In the chat.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens as to whether she does turn up next Friday. I also did ask him whether his chat-up line was, "I'm an F1 champion, you know." Because there's a couple of reasons for that. One, because it's funny, and two, because when I won a championship not long ago, my brother on Facebook, you had these little cartoon animation things, and my brother did one of like a guy stood at the front door talking to a woman with big breasts, and it was meant to be me with exactly that line above my head. So anyway, we'll get back to what's actually going on track here. I'm looking at Acorn 95. He's in for his, I think, second or third reserve drive now in the World Series. He's done very, very well in the FRRI days, and he's done pretty well as a reserve driver. So he'll really be hoping to have a good session here to prove he's got what it takes to become a permanent in the World Series. But with a sector time of an 18.3 in the first sector, could struggle a little bit. And what's interesting as well is he's on the red marked super soft tyre, which I am kind of surprised about, because I would expect to see a few drivers out on track on the primes saving those option tyres for the race.
Temp Fear is just at a 17.8 in the first sector in the Sabre.
Now, Temp Fear, I haven't done this for a while, but I would predict that Temp Fear will get pole position here and is on for winning this race. He is a quick driver.
And he's on the primes as well, just to mark that one out.
Yeah, so to add insult to injury for Acorn, someone's gone faster in Sector 1 on the prime tyre, but I will carry on watching Acorn here until he completes that lap, and then we'll jump on to Temp Fear. But yeah, Temp Fear is my pick for pole and the win today. When he goes on to the options, I reckon we could see him possibly hitting mid to low 39s. I mean, you might not know.
Keep an eye on Temp Fear. You keep an eye on. I'll just keep an eye on Temp Fear.
141 then for Acorn 95 for his first lap. So let's go and have a look, as most drivers are on the option tyres for our racing GPs on the primes, as is Ant 69. Temp Fear now coming into the penultimate corner. It's a good sector 2 time he's had there of a 41.9. How's his final sector? If he can get this into the 40s, that bodes well for the option run, and it's a 40.0. Yeah, you knock a second off that lap time and you're looking at a 39.0 on the option tyres. He's one to keep an eye out on when he does put those tyres on. Okay, Killer Corkin has just crossed the line on the options and gone third place down in all of the sectors. Andy Russell had a very interesting race in Brazil last week. He's done quite a slow sector, so he's on an in-lap now, currently sat in 5th place. If nobody has watched the World Series race from Brazil, go and watch the start of the race. Oh, go on, Pete, sound like he was going to say something there?
No, I'm just... my son was looking at me a bit funny because I'm talking.
Wondering what you're doing.
He thinks I'm talking to him.
Probably.
Yeah. What's that on your head?
Yeah, what are you doing? That reminds me, actually, time to give you your commentary name in the World Series. Every commentator has had their commentary name. I'm known as Dave Lays in Beds, and you this evening, Pete, are going to be known as Peter Nigel Manbell.
Good job. I had headphones on, and my son did not hear that.
True, but I do.
You don't want to know what I got called.
No. Okay, let's have a look what else we've got on track. Hybrid Nuke on the prime tyre. He's done a sector 1 of an 18.0, sector 2 of a 42.0. Now, these guys that are on the prime tyres at the moment, they're not going for fastest laps yet. They're just using up these prime tyres to save their options for the race, because if they watch the World Championship race from last night, they'll know that a 3-stop is faster than a 2-stop, and doing a 3-stop, you're going to need your option tyres. Now,
indeed. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Take
no,
my son home.
No
I'll be
problem.
back just before the fin the quali.
Okay, right, Hybrid Nuke has gone for the pit lane then, so 6th place for him at the moment. Richie Davey on the option tyres. It's a 19.4 and a 49.6 sectors, so he's on an in-lap. Adam 4600 appears to have a bit of lag and a flying Lotus, so that could be a little problematic, but hopefully not. From Raw Racing GP in as a reserve in the Sauber, seeing as he's been covering the World Championship commentary and main broadcast over the last few weeks. Running the prime tyre, which I'm not surprised by. An 18.0 Sector 1, 42.6 Sector 2. And not too bad, but again, he's just using up the tyres until the latter stages of this session. It's a 42.8, but he's currently in second place on the prime tyres, so I don't think that was his fastest lap. Let's have a quick look. No, he's done a 40.9 on the prime tyres. So for all of these drivers that have ran the options already, they've wasted them effectively. Okay, so GP is continuing on. Charlie currently sat in 5th place. Now, I had an interesting conversation with Charlie today, who he's told me that he's been using the directional pad on his controller for steering left and right, which kind of totally shocked me, to be honest, because it's not what pretty much everybody else would use. Everybody else would use the analog stick. So I don't know if Charlie's converted to the analog stick for this race here, but hopefully from now on he will do. He will find, but it's going to take him a bit of time to get used to it. He's done a Sector 1 of an 18.0, hard on the brakes into the tricky turns 8 and 9. And he's very, very cautious on the throttle through those corners, but if he hasn't got any traction control on, that could be why. Obviously in the World Series you are allowed to use the assists. That is the difference between the World Championship and the World Series. 45 Sector 2, so not going to be the fastest of sectors 4 in there. Perhaps he's trying to get used to the steering through the tighter, twistier corners. Now, I know we've got a lot of messages coming through at the moment. I do apologise, I can't actually view those messages. Perhaps when Pete gets back he will be able to do so. We'll see how Charlie gets on through the Yas Hotel. A little twitchy on the steering, a few corrective turns, but if he's on the analog stick that'll be why. Currently sat in 5th place. Is he going to be improving on his lap time? No, he's heading for the pits. Okay, Hybrid Nuke has now come back out onto the track on the option tyres, so we'll have to keep an eye on him in a few moments. Richie Davey also out again on the option tyres on an out lap. Andy Russell on an out lap on the option tyres. Adam 4600 driving sideways down the straight, so hopefully that's not going to affect anybody else during the race. And 69 still running around on the prime tyres, now taking his first reserve drive, and he has told me that his main goal here is to simply get to the end without any major dramas, and that's the best way to approach a reserve drive. You're not going to score points for yourself, you score points for the team, so get to the end without any major dramas. Whatever points you earn are what you learn. It looks like he's backed out of this one, so he's currently sat in 11th place. From Raw Racing GP, still going round on his prime tyres and just on a 17.9 Sector 1, a 42.4 Sector 2. Let's have a quick look at the 10th Fear and from Raw Racing GP are fastest in the first sector. Charlie's actually pretty quick there as well, but on the prime tyres they have been going very, very quick. Just showing again that using up the option tyres in the early stages of this qualifying session, not really the best of things to do, because if the drivers want those tyres for the race, they're now going to be worn. Okay, is GP going to complete this lap? It looks like he is. He's had to take an adjustment of steering through the corner, and it's a 41.9, so still sat in second place. Acorn 95 on the option tyres. Coming into the Yas Hotel, running a little bit wide. The stewards will be lenient there, but if he runs wide here, there's going to be a wall to punish him, and you don't really want to be hitting that wall there. So into the final corner now. We can see that his sector times have not been as quick as the guys on the primes. He's ran wide as well, and it's a 41.2, not an improvement. Charlie's back into the pits. Okay, Hybrid Nuke on his option tyres, an 18.0 Sector 1, 41.8 Sector 2, so perhaps a little quicker in Sector 2. He's going to need to put together a good final sector here to move up the grid effectively. Currently sat in 6th place. I'm wondering whether a few of these drivers are running quite low aerodynamics They seem to be struggling to get the car into the apexes of the corners and really plant the throttle. It's a 40.2, which isn't too bad, but I would expect more from him. He has got time to get back to the pits and put another lap in. Acorn's now on an in lap, Charlie on an out lap, Richie Davey heading into the pits in 7th place. Andy Russell has just completed a lap. Is he going for another flyer? It looks like he may be. So around turn 1 into turn 2. The flat out turn 3, as long as you've got the grip there, he's not going to get it turned in. He's just about keeping it on the road. Through 4, now into turn 5. The fantastic stadium section at the hairpin. You can really hear the crowd go wild during the race through here if you listen out for it. It's an 18.4 sector 1, not too bad. Needs a good sector 2 though to really try and bump himself up the grid a little bit. DRS will now be open as he heads up towards turns 8 and 9. A very difficult, very heavy braking zone here. Made even more difficult if the brake marker boards aren't there, but thankfully the 100-metre marker board is, and that is the crucial one. Now heading towards turn 11 as turn 10 is just before the DRS activation. Adam 4600 is now retired from qualifying, so that's his session over. So what's Andy's sector 2 going to be? It's a 43.3. He's off the pace a little bit in that second sector. That's going to cost him. Okay, let's see who else we've got. Ant 69, he's got to be heading back to the pits now. Yep, it's an in lap. Hybrid Nuke on an in lap. Acorn into the pits. And Charlie has just completed a lap and is currently sat in 6th place, and I think still has the fastest sector 1. No, Temp Fear has pipped him a little bit there, but I mean the times are very close in sector 1. Sector 2 not too bad, and sector 3 very close between the top 5, but 2 of them, as we know, have only ran the prime tyre at the moment.
Killer Corcoran just exiting the pits, going for one final run perhaps.
I've just noticed Charlie has left the session. I'm wondering whether he's made a little bit of a mistake there. Probably meant to retire and instead has left the session, so let's hope he can get himself back in. Killer Corcoran is, as Pete says, on an out lap. I don't know whether you're able to keep an eye on any messages going in onto the YouTube chat, Pete.
Yes, I've got it up now. A few people discussing who the favourite F1 drivers are. Someone said Ricardo, someone says they like Rosberg, Russell Tottenham. Only because his name's John THFC.
Yeah, it's got to be Tottenham.
It's a better attitude to F1 than Hamilton, who just parties and gets drunk every time.
So did James Hunt.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those with Hamilton, right? Personally, I don't mind them. When someone's actually current and out, it's very easy to sort of hate someone. I remember discussing this with me dad about boxing. We were talking about Tyson Fury, for example, and saying like how much of a character he is and stuff like that. And he was saying, well, when Ali was in his prime, my dad was about 15, something like that, and obviously he was an outspoken person.
Yeah.
But you look back now and think Ali's one of the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Reflecting how that means on Hamilton, in that, okay, some of the things he does in his personal life, he is a bit of a knob. But actual ability as a driver, I don't think you can dispute it.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I agree with you with the...
30 years from now, maybe people will look at Hamilton differently than what they do now.
Yeah, I mean, they do with Vettel, don't they? I mean, people look at Vettel when he was winning his championships and going, oh, I don't like him, he's winning everything, he's really arrogant. Not winning stuff, people refer to him as the 4-time world champion and say that you have to, even if you don't like the guy, you have to respect the fact that he did win 4 world championships. You can't fault that.
Exactly, yeah.
And it is similar with Hamilton and also Tyson Fury. I mean, I like Tyson Fury. He is a character. He is enjoyable to watch. Some of the stuff he says is going to be ridiculous. But at the same time, I mean, how many boxers have you ever seen win or lose a fight and then sing a song in the ring? Never.
Exactly. I personally, Killer Corcoran's retired for some reason.
I think he's had a bit of a bad lap there and he's decided to abandon the lap. Temp Fear's gone back out on track on the prime tyres. He's realised that he's currently sat on pole position when he set a time on the primes, so he's going to go for it again on the primes, because if he can do a better lap, having done less laps on the tyres, he'll start this race on those primes. Front Row Racing GP was in third, also on the prime tyre, so I wonder whether he's going to do a similar thing. No,
he's on the options now.
He is on the options, so we've got both Saubers on out laps then. And that'll work well for them, because if Temp Fear can get, well, if he doesn't improve his lap, he's starting on warm primes. If he does improve his lap, he's starting on fresh primes. But it's going to alternate their strategies, so they may never have a problem of double stacking in the pits. But they've got, what, 20 seconds to get to the start-finish line, and Steve's actually on his timed lap, but he's gone slower in Sector 1 on his options than he did on the primes. Let's see if he can improve his Sector 2 time.
Temp Fear is going to be the last one to start the final lap. He's just gone over the line with 5 seconds to go, so he'll be the last one to watch out for. And he is, of course, already on provisional pole.
Okay, if you want to keep an eye on him, I'm just going to keep an eye on Front Row Racing GP, because he really does need to get this lap time in, because he has done quite a few laps on his prime tyres at the start of this session, so he needs a good lap on this set of tyres, otherwise he too will be starting on warm primes. I mean, it's a good idea to save your option tyres, but if you end up doing 6 or 7 laps on the primes in qualifying and you end up starting the race on them, you could struggle with your strategy. So is he going to improve his lap time at all? I think he may have done a little bit. Well, let's see how Temp Fear is getting on. We can't see the sector times anymore, which is a bit of a shame. And really, I mean, Temp Fear doesn't have to complete this lap, but if he can improve it, it will benefit him for the race. So as he heads up to the triple chicane, a really tricky chicane. Oh, he's locked up going into it. A little bit sideways on the exit. He knows he's got to push to improve on this lap. Now, if they don't improve, what do you reckon that? Why do you think that'd be, Pete?
Could be a lot of things. It is getting a little bit darker, so maybe the track temperature's dropped a bit. You'd assume that they've done these laps on new tyres, so it shouldn't really be a factor of tyre wear, but, you know, track temperature does, obviously, it is chemistry, it does evolve, it does have to, well, chemistry, it does have to interact with the tyre, and obviously different temperatures do different things, so I think he's just crawling across the line, to be honest, so.
Yep. Well, that's it. Qualifying over. So Steve didn't improve his lap time. So Temp Fear will be starting on pole position on the prime tyres. That's going to have surprised a few people. Hybrid Nuke second on the options. From a Racing GP, he's going to be on worn primes. Acorn 95 also on options. So it'd be interesting. Top 4 into the first couple of corners. Killer Corkin, then Charlie, but Charlie is struggling to get back in at the moment. And then we've got the 2 Ferraris of Richie Davey and Andy Russell. Adam 4600 for Lotus, Ant 69, Konzo, who has not, and that's our grid. But I mean, yeah, with the tyres, as you were saying, I mean, I kind of gave a bit of insider information to Ray yesterday, saying the option tyres around here in qualifying, they'll do a good time on the first lap, but the second lap is so much faster. And that's all to do with tyre temperature. So the temperature around here in your tyres is crucial. But it's very difficult as well, because in this race, as you said in last night's commentary, all of a sudden you go, hang on a minute, it's dark. And if your tyre pressures aren't right for that change in weather, that change in temperature, you can go from having loads of grip for the first half of the race to having no grip whatsoever. So that's how that's how important it is around here. But for people like Front Row Racing GP and Temp Fear, they're going to be starting this race on the prime tyre. They're going to be faster later on, but they're going to struggle in this first stint on the primes, I think. Now, I've got a car behind me, so I'm going to have to move out of the way. But we've got about 10 seconds to go before the start of this race. Are you going to try and predict a winner, Pete?
No. I'm just, I'm going to go I'm going to go with the one you said, the pole man, Temp Fear.
Temp Fear, yep. I think he's got a very, very, very good chance of this. Okay, I'm going to get moved out of the way. We're on 4 lights, 5 lights. The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is underway for the World Series drivers. Adam 4600's car looked like it didn't move at the start. He did appear to have a little bit of lag in the first car. Oh, Temp Fear has been taken out. He's off on the right-hand side. It looks like Richie Davies got a little bit of lag here as well, so I don't know whether it was a lag crash, but Temp Fear is now way down the field. Oh yeah, there's a Ferrari lagging about all over the place, unless it's just the visuals on my screen. Hopefully not. But I think that's put Hybrid Nuke out in front. It has, with Acorn 95 in second place. And I think Konzo may have jumped a lot of places from the back of the grid at the start here. But Hybrid Nuke's pulled out a big healthy lead, and from a Racing GP is having a look all over the Ferrari that's been around him. Oh, but Red Bull's taken a dive up the inside. And Steve on the prime tyres, as I mentioned, he's going to struggle for grip and traction on these prime tyres. It might be worth getting rid of them as early as possible as he comes under attack from the Red Bull once again. And it's getting very busy even further behind with Konzo, Andy Russell, and I think that might be a razor in my my Williams there.
Yeah, it was an interesting start to say the least. We were just about caught the Sabre going off. Be interested to see if at the end of the race if anyone can shed more light on that with any footage that we might get. But since then, it's well, our predictions got out the window at least.
Yep, commentator's curse has struck straight away. Now, I have noticed that Eraser has started the race on the prime tyres, but his will be brand new primes as Hybrid Nuke and Acorn 95 cross the line to finish lap 1. And for Hybrid Nuke, he will, I'll get my words out in a moment, he will want to pull away from Acorn as soon as possible. Because if these guys get into a battle, they've got Richie Davey, who's going to capitalise as soon as he can.
Well, we see in last night's race, obviously James finishing third. He's had an up and down season. You could argue the same about Richie Davey, who we know he's got pace, but controversy along the way this season, of course. But you know, personally, because obviously I've known Richie a long time and I know what he can be like, but it'd be nice to see him have a strong race here today from a personal standpoint. But of course, you'd want to earn that victory, and at the moment, not doing too bad.
No, from a Racing GP's under attack from Konzo, who's also started the race on the prime tyres, but his are brand new, so a bit of a battle going on there. But I mean, one of the records that Richie Davey does hold, I think, for this season is most front wings lost. In races. He has lost a lot of them, and as I mentioned in qualifying, Richie has previously lost a front wing at this race in the pit lane, so hopefully he's not going to repeat that one for us. It would be nice to see him get to the end without losing the wing. I mean, he did lose one in Brazil's pit lane. Well, I mean, here's something. Here's a random thought for you. As Temp Fear, he's had to pit, so he has had damage on his car. He's now got the option tyres on. In the latest patch on F1 2015, they have changed what happens to your tyres as you're leaving the pits. You now leave the pits with warm tyres rather than with cold tyres. And for people that have perhaps just done a race at Brazil where the pit lane was so awkward with cold tyres, how do you think drivers may feel now doing the last race where they now get warm tyres when they're leaving the pits?
They're both tricky pit exits, so I think it would be more interesting to see what it was like on cold tyres. But I mean, it doesn't seem to say that they won't lose it, because we see what happened yesterday, so we know it's possible. Yeah, so I don't think they'll try and probably approach it differently. I'm sure at some point they must have practiced coming out to the pits, whether they're practicing for this race and even in qualifying as well. So they've got an idea of what it's like on warm tyres.
Yep.
So it don't think it should be too bad, but then again, don't write anything off. We see what happened yesterday.
That is very, very true. And also, I mean, with the tyres now being warm on the exit of the pits, when we go into next season, pit exits should be a lot easier for all of the drives to deal with. Oh, GP's gone for a move, but he's ended up going a little bit deep there. He's pushing on those prime tyres, not quite working for him. A Hybrid Nuke's pulling out a gap now up at the front as he goes through the Yaz Hotel. I know it is called something else now. For some reason I've got Hallmark in my mind, but I'm fairly sure they do cards, not hotels. Oh, I could be very, very wrong.
I'll just have a look now for you. What it's called? Yes, Viceroy.
Viceroy. There we go, Viceroy. That kind of makes sense, really, considering that Viceroy was the term for it was like their king in the olden days, wasn't it? The Viceroy. It was like, or Prime Minister version of the Prime Minister or something like that. But anyway, still an interesting hotel. Although I have noticed over the last couple of seasons, the lights have been failing in the glass panels, and they've not been replacing them, which is why this season's real F1 they didn't focus much on the hotel because the light shows weren't working properly. But there we go. So Hybrid Nuke had pulled out a lead at the front, but he's getting caught up again now by Acorn.
The field seems pretty much spread out except for the top two. There was a gap. I'm not sure if Hybrid Nuke's made a mistake. It was up to 1.7 seconds. Now it's within a second, so you get the DRS. But again, Hybrid Nuke just seems to be driving away from him down the straight, so...
it's possible Hybrid's perhaps got a lower aero package to benefit him on the straights, but in the practice sessions where he was racing against me, he did keep saying, you must be running a higher wing to me, because I was able to get round turn 3 in the dirty air, and I may have been, but it was actually what I was doing with the throttle and steering that allowed me to follow him. So perhaps Hybrid's gone with a setup that he's not fully comfortable with, and now his tyres are starting to wear. Acorn's right behind him. The question is, are we going to see anyone pitting now, or... go on.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, yesterday the first stop was yourself, and that was at the end of lap 5.
Yep.
So, if anyone's going to try and do a copycat or follow suit, we're expecting them in at the end of this lap, or even now. Let's have a quick flick through, see if anyone has pitted. At the moment, nobody's pitting.
No. I mean, if you was racing in this race, Pete, and you'd watched the World Championship race last night, would you copycat the winning strategy?
Well, I think it's more than strategy. There's a number of things. Strategy obviously plays a part of how well and how high you finish your ball. Obviously, there's driving ability to factor in your driving style, affects tyre wear. So it is personal preference, but I did sort of try and emphasise this point yesterday on commentary when I was talking to Steve and Ray about it. I said, I think people need to sort of know exactly what they're thinking. I think a few people, I didn't mention names, but a few people still listen or read what the mechanic says to pit on.
Yeah.
So they end up pitting a lot later, thinking, "Oh, I can get to lap 8 and stretch it out." But I said, no, I think playing these games for long enough, we know that shit goes out the window. This is a whole different ball game to that. It's not the fastest way. It might be shortest, fewest pit stop way, but it's not the way that'll get you to the finish line the quickest. Oh, and that was close between Hybrid Nuke, nearly into the back of him, similar to Bartman and who was it yesterday? Bleeding.
Stocky, Bartman and Stocky. Yeah, I had a great view of that collision yesterday. So the front two, they've not pitted. I was just watching Eraser and Andy Russell having a very interesting battle on opposite tyres. Richie Davey, he's not pitting either. Killer Corkins continued on, as has Conzo. Andy Russell, he's continuing on. It looks like GP. Yeah, so on the prime tyres, which we mentioned were worn, so he's probably done 5 laps in qualifying on those tyres, so that's why he's pitted at the end of lap 5.
Oh, and it's...
Go on, what you got?
Arizor and Adam coming into the pits. It looked like Arizor wanted to come into the pits. He overshot it, and then Adam ended up overshooting and ended up smacking the wall. I think he's got away with it, though.
Adam is into the pits. That was a strange one. Okay, Adam's not needed a new front wing. Adam was having a bit of lag in qualifying, so we may see some dodgy stuff from his car. Tempfear has moved up now ahead of Adam. What I'm interested to see is whether Front Racing GP has gone primes again. No, he's not. He's gone options. Now, with him being one of the earlier ones to pit, he will now get a massive undercut on all of those cars ahead of him. The problem is, he's going to have to go long on some of his option tyres, but to his benefit, all of his options are brand new, and he knows they can do 9 laps, but laps 7, 8 and 9 aren't very quick, so he'll be one to watch throughout this race to see if he can get any kind of major undercut. Hybrid Nuke though and Acorn, they're still nose to tail as they head through the Viceroy Hotel. I think Hybrid's struggling with his tyres. End of lap 6, I reckon we're going to see at least one of these guys heading into the pits now, and there we go, Hybrid Nuke goes for it, and Acorn should have followed him. He has followed him.
But there was a bit of a controversial pit entrance there. He cut the white line definitely on the way in.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was watching Hybrid Nuke and it looked like Acorn continued on, but no, he's in the pit lane. So, we've got Richie Davies in as well, so we've got a very busy pit lane now as Killer Corkin follows him in.
Oh, and he's beat him out the pits. Acorn's got ahead of Hybrid Nuke in the pits, but I think that'll hang over his head. Oh, and Nuke nearly on the curb.
He nearly copycatted Bartman from yesterday. Richie Davies a bit sideways through there as well. We've got a Razor coming round the first couple of corners, turn 3. He's going to come out in between the Ferrari and the Red Bull, so he's now, he's still on worn primes. Killer Corkin's on brand new tyres, brand new primes, has a look up the inside. Oh, and just about manages to squeeze through, but he's going to gift DRS to a Razor who knows what his tyres are capable of at the moment. But you're right, I mean, Acorn did get the jump in the pits, but Hybrid Nuke is not going to be happy about that. And Hybrid Nuke is on the options, and Acorn is on the prime. And there's half a chance that the stewards are going to have a look at Acorn's pit entry as well, which, if it turns out he did cross the white line, he's looking at a big penalty.
I forgot what I was going to say now. Hybrid Nuke just goes past him anyway.
Yeah, with DRS.
I think what's happened is, I think he thought, I'm going to do a Hybrid Nuke does, and Hybrid Nuke left it late to come into the pits as well after the exit of the corner. Acorn realised in a split second either to carry on and lose a lot of time, do another lap, or to call it now. He called it, but it meant him going over the white line, so I think that was the reason for it. But again, it's still no excuse. If you're going to pit, you need to stay within the white lines, but we'll investigate later.
Yep. And that's why,
see if that was the case.
Yeah, and that's why it's, I mean, for this season, for the World Series drivers, it's not been mandatory that they do record, but it has been advisable for situations like that where, GP's gone a little bit wide. Where if, on our view, they've taken a late entry.
Richie Davey off the curb, nearly into the pit wall. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
But on these prime tyres, even you said as well on the pit exit, you're just struggling to keep the temperature, it seems, or really push him, or maybe it might just be lag, but it looked like he was just about to slam it into the pit wall.
Well, one of the things I do know on these prime tyres, I'm surprised that any of the drivers have actually put them on now. I mean, I know on commentary yesterday, yourself, Stephen Ray, were talking about why me and Kev do strategies the way that we do, and one of the things that we worked out about this particular track was that the prime tyres in this stage of the race are 2 seconds a lap slower than they are at the end of the race. But not only are they 2 seconds slower than they would be at the end of the race, they're 2 seconds slower than the options are at this stage of the race. So effectively, you lose loads of time running the primes now. The temperatures just aren't quite right for them. The grip's not there. So anyone that's on the prime tyres right now is going to struggle a lot compared to somebody that's on the options. Now, people like Eraser, Temp Fear, GP, they don't need to run the primes again because of whatever they've done in qualifying, so they could be very, very quick in this section of the race and still be fast later on. Whereas the better thing for the drivers to do would be to use those prime tyres right at the end of the session here, where the temperatures are kinder to them, and instead of doing 142s, 143 lap times, they're capable of doing 140s, 141s, and that's the difference. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because we've got a lot of people on different tyres.
And obviously added into that as well, because by that stage you would have had about 22, 23 laps of the race already gone. You've already got a lot of rubber down from the cars that have done 22 laps throwing it down, so it's going to be a lot more grippier even though the track temperature's lower. So it's sort of the ideal conditions for the primes to be used at the end of the race, more rather than, as you say, at this point.
Definitely. Now there are some tracks where you can benefit more by using the primes earlier on in the session, but that's when the time loss is not as big. I mean, there are tracks where it can be done and it can work. I mean, myself and Kev, we've done it on occasion. Dom, he likes to get the primes out of the way as soon as possible. At some tracks it'll work, at some tracks it won't. The trick is to know which ones they are. Okay. I'm just trying to see if we've got any battles going on at the moment. We've got Konzo in 5th place on the option tyres, with Front Row Racing GP right behind him also on the option tyres. Both of these guys have used the primes, so they're going to be running options to the end, I would have thought. Konzo, the current the new World Series champion, I guess he would like to win this race to make up for not having a date tonight, but I suppose this is a race for him where it doesn't really matter what happens. He's already got the title sewn up. He can just approach this one and enjoy it.
Very true. Killer Corcoran seems a lot closer to Richie Davey than he does before the pit stops. I think they pitted on the same lap as well. So
yep.
Be interesting to see how the two Red Bulls approach this. They're both obviously closing. Konzo's closing in on his teammates, and together they're both closing on Richie Davies. So it could be interesting for the final podium spot as this race progresses. Still 18 laps to go as well. So
yep. I mean,
keep an eye on that one. And Steve's also in the action there as well. He's into 6th, so don't write him off for the podium either.
No, it'll be interesting to see when he pits again, because I think the optimum amount of laps on the option tyres is about 6 laps. So if he pits on lap 11, he could struggle towards the end, but if he can stretch them out, it could be good for him. I mean, we could see Killer Corcoran and GP sort of going anywhere up to sort of lap 12 to 14 on the option tyre. We'll have to wait and see. But as you've mentioned, Killer Corcoran looks like he's closing in on Richie Davey, but he's got his teammate closing in on him on those option tyres. So we're not far away from having a bit of a teammate Red Bull battle going on here.
Just trying to see how Steve's tyres are from the camera angles. They don't look too bad at the moment. So, as you said, if he was to pit lap 11, if he stretched this into lap 12, just gives him an extra lap to play with at the end. Well, it's easier said than done, and obviously each tyre's different, so we'll just have to see how that one goes.
Yep. Acorn is losing buckets of time each lap to Hybrid Nuke out the front, with Acorn running the prime tyres now. He's 4.5 seconds down across the start finish line, and I reckon that's going to go up to about 4.8 at the end of sector 1, 4.7. So there he's losing 0.3 in sector 1 alone on those tyres. So you're looking at a second to a second and a half, because sector 3 is going to lose nearly a second in that sector alone. But this is where it's kind of tricky. Hybrid has got to push now to open up enough of a gap later on that when he's on the primes he won't get caught. Acorn needs to push really hard now so that he's not too far away, so that when Hybrid's on his primes, Acorn can catch him up. The thing is, I know if that gap gets to about 7-8 seconds, he's going to struggle to catch him later on.
10th is just on the fastest lap of the race, down in 10th. Just makes you think what could have been if he didn't have that incident on the first corner. Clearly has the pace in that Sauber, and it's a shame, it is. I mean, you still don't know what happened, but I think he can only just try and make the best of it. And he's in the points, but at the moment he just that.
He will be disappointed. I mean, he has shown that he's got great pace, and Konzo's right on the back of Killer Corcoran now. But yeah, 10th has shown he's got great pace. He's just been very, very unlucky. I mean, in the World Championship race where he was a reserve driver in Mexico, involved in a collision while he's fighting for the lead.
Battle for the first time in about 6 laps. Arizor battle for 8th. Arizor and Adam, and Arizor and the Williams makes it stick. P8.
So a Razor gains a place then, and I think Konzo.
Is it a Razor or Arizor?
I don't know. I think I'd just call him a razor. And
Tomato,
every now and again, yeah, every now and again call him Arazor.
Konzo. One just developing as well. Yeah, you just said it.
Yeah, Konzo and Killer Corkin. Now, usually these guys would play nice, and perhaps Killer Corkin would realise that they're on opposite strategies. But I mean, they don't really have to fight for anything at the moment, so Konzo will probably just sit behind him until he's got DRS, as long as he doesn't ram him up the rear end. Now, if there is a bit of sliding going on from the cars on the view, I do apologise, folks. I know the patch that's come out recently, a few people are saying that it has caused a few problems, but we'll see. I mean, it is a bit slidey, but you get that now and again. So Konzo then with DRS going past his teammate, who's not making it easy for him, trying not to lose any time whatsoever. Konzo then. Oh, Killer Corkin, he's gone very deep, as so has Konzo. I was surprised Killer Corkin's actually not sort of giving him the position on that one, but I think Konzo is going to be coming back past now. But that's allowed for a Racing GP to catch them both up. Oh, contact!
Oh,
I thought that was going to be Turkey all over again then.
Well, I tell you what, championship may be settled. So it's nice to see that two teammates actually battle them.
I mean, this.
I tell you what,
it could be a situation where Killer Corkin might be saying, you know what, you might be the champion, you might be my teammate, but I ain't going to make it easy for you. You want to get past me, you're going to have to work for it.
Unless, of course, it's just allowed Richie Davey to escape. I think the gap is around 5 seconds now. It was about 2.5, 3 seconds. So working out well for Richie if these two carry on.
Oh, from Racing GP, he's gone for the pits, so he's realised he's caught these two up, and with him pitting, these two keep battling, he's going to undercut the both of these.
Exactly, you call it right. You'd said it would go to lap 11. I said if he stretches it another lap, he's done exactly that. So it's given him that extra lap to play with, so may not struggle as much at the end.
Thing is,
as you would if he pitted the lap before.
I tell you what, I think he can make it to the end as the Red Bulls are still fighting. I was going to say, he's just done 7 laps on those option tyres. 7 laps from now takes him to lap 20. That leaves him 8 laps on his final stint. He can make those options work for him all the way to the end. So if he can undercut both of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised if he can also undercut Richie Davey, you know, because the undercut, over 2 laps, you can gain about 4 or 5 seconds. And here goes Konzo again, DRS open, as they both lock it up into turn 8. Konzo's gone a little bit deep. Killer gives him a bit of room, but then says, "You're not having it, mate. You're not having it." Or as, what would it be in German? 9! I tell you, if you ever watched any of Killer Corkin's footage, I know he is German, as they go side by side again into turn 11, I think that is, and Konzo finally gets ahead. Yeah, if you've ever watched any of Killer Corkin's footage, I know he's German, but when you listen to his race engineer, it really does sound like he's shouting at him all the time.
Still at it.
Killer, he does not want to give this up at all. He doesn't want to give it up in any way, shape or form. But it's good to see that they are fighting each other for the position.
Just interesting to note really quickly as well, the stop actually worked very well for GP as well, because he came out in clear air. 10th phase just took Arazor for 8th, so Arazor now down to 9th. Bit comfortable in 9th at the minute though, the gap behind them is a fairly big one. But again, the two Red Bulls carry on, so GP could work out very, very nicely for them.
It definitely could. And the thing is,
Nuke's pitted, we've missed that one. He's pitted, he's back into 3rd.
And he's on the prime tyres now. He's come out right ahead of Konzo, and
he's come out right in front of the 2 Red Bulls.
Yes, so I was just thinking for a moment that Steve's going to come out in front of Konzo, but it's not going to work that way. Konzo will pit and Steve's going to be ahead of them then. I was thinking for a moment that Steve's going to be up with Hybrid Nuke, but he's not going to be. He's going to be further back down. I had to try and work that one out in my mind.
Around that one.
Yeah, okay, so what's Acorn 95 going to do then? He's been running these primes for a while. Can go back to the options. When will be the question. He's got 14 laps left, so I reckon he needs to do it now. If he does it now, he's got 7 and 7 to go.
And we can see the sun slowly going down, so of course the track temperature's dropping. So just as the race progresses, might just get a little bit more tricky out there for them.
Definitely.
And
Acorn
here
then.
comes Acorn.
Yeah, into the pits. And just to confirm something that you mentioned on the commentary last night as well, because I edited the footage together, and you were saying about around here, when you're driving round, you just drive round, and then all of a sudden you go, it's dark. You really don't notice that change. You perhaps notice, it's got a bit darker, but all of a sudden it is proper night time. And even when I was watching the footage, editing it together, I heard you say that, and even then I still didn't spot when it actually went to night time. So that it is a proper sort of in the background, and as a driver it tends to be because you're just focusing on that piece of tarmac right in front of you. Now I think Killer
Conzo's been in
Corkin,
the pits.
Killer Corkin hasn't.
Steve's got the jump,
He has.
so he's up to 5th.
He has got a massive undercut on Conzo there. From a Racing GP is into the hairpin now, and Conzo is only just getting to it, so it's a good 3-4 seconds. Steve's just gone through the screen, and there's the undercut in a nutshell. So that's worked really well for Steve. Oh, bit of contact! Oh, Killer Corkin and Acorn. I didn't see everything that happened there. I just happened to go on board and
I just see the tyre going through him.
I just heard the crunch. So Killer Corkin's still running his primes. I think he's got to get rid of them fairly soon.
Hybrid Nuke right behind Richie Davey. Richie Davey gets a stop, of course, but it is a battle for the lead. On the road, Richie Davey sliding round.
He's got to be heading to the
in the pits at the end of this race, yeah. Not race, sorry, end of this lap.
Well, he might be in the pits at the end of this race. It depends on what happens, but there he goes into the pit lane then. So for Richie, that's kind of like put a bit of a dent in the works there, because he's in 3rd place, but Hybrid Nuke's got pretty much a whole pit stop on him.
Be interested to see if GP can get past Richie Davey. I think it might be a bit of a bridge too far, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway.
I don't know. GP's coming around the final corner now and across the finish line.
Richie Davey going down the pit lane. He's hit the limiter now. Into the left under the circuit.
It could be close.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be very close.
GP's got him.
Richie's coming up the hill. So there, I said there's half a chance GP's undercut will get Richie Davey as well, and there you go. So he's not gained 1 place, he hasn't gained 2 places, he's gained 3 positions doing the undercut there. Yeah, and then it runs wide. He will have been keeping an eye on where Richie Davey is, but now we're in a situation where, as Steve's showing Richie's own defensive style lines. I like that. Yeah, Steve's been on these.
Ahead.
Oh, Richie's going to go for it.
GP.
So side by side then into turns 8 and 9, and Steve's kind of given him that one there because he knows he's going to get DRS here. And Richie now doing his own defensive lines. So Steve going to try and make a move to the outside. Give us a decent view if you will. No, you won't. Richie manages to just about stay ahead, but I was going to say that Richie's tyres are obviously fresher than Steve's at the moment, so no surprise that has come that way. But Steve will have another undercut a little later on, where he won't come out right in front of him. He's going to come out 4 or 5 seconds ahead of him, or at least that will be his plan.
It just depends what Richie can do now. If he can make the gap, he should be able to fairly easily, but as you say, it'll come back to GP a little bit later on. Just to analyse those second stops, the one who's gained out of that is clearly GP. The one who's lost out is Killer Cork, and he's miles behind his teammate now. There's a good 8 seconds, and he's, well, last of those 4 cars.
Yep, down in 6th place and just crossing the line now. And Andy Russell's not that far behind him, and he's got Temp Fear catching him up. Ant 69, his race is over, so his first drive as a reserve has come to an early end as Temp Fear posts another fastest lap. He's catching that Ferrari quick, and the Sauber is powered by Ferrari, I believe, but he's not going to stay behind him if he can actually get past.
Out of 4600. Seems to be in the wall every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I do know that Adam 4600's internet is not the most powerful. Oh, Temp Fear, Andy Russell's just ran a little wide. Temp Fear sneaks through. That may be Andy Russell realising that his tyres are not very good at the moment. and Richie Davey has also pulled away now from Row Racing GP, so that's the difference in the tyre life there. Hybrid Nuke, he's quite comfortable at the moment on his prime tyres, with Acorn 6 seconds behind him at the moment. Now, I said if that gap got to sort of 6-7 seconds, I don't think he'll catch him up. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because he may catch throughout this stint, but on the final stint, Hybrid's going to be on those options again. Oh, and Acorn's very wide.
Well, we know that everybody has... I'm trying to think if anyone hasn't run the prime tyre yet. Acorn has, Hybrid's on them now, Richie Davey has, GP has. So we've had the vast majority that have, so there's nobody who still needs to run them in the ideal time, and you said that it could be best to run them.
I think pretty much everybody has, apart from possibly... Adam 4600 is all over the place. The only one I'm not sure about is Andy Russell. I'll tell you what, Acorn is only 4.5 seconds behind the leader now, so he is gaining quick, and this is where for Hybrid Nuke, had he have used those prime tyres at the end of the race, he'd be losing less time now, but this could get close. This could get close. I mean, what, 2-3 laps, we're going to be into pit stop window again. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, I'm just curious as to whether Konzo is gaining on front row. He may be a little bit. That's the tyre life coming now into Konzo's hands. And I would wonder, whether Konzo is going to try and follow whatever GP does here, because he's seen what GP has just done to him on that undercut. So if Konzo follows him in the pits, he knows that both of them will jump Richie Davey.
Acorn's just took half a second in the second sector alone, so he's gonna catch him quick. Across the line they go, and the gap's 3.6, another half a second in the third sector. He's gaining over a second a lap here.
Oh, he's gone wide though. I mean, this is a situation as well where for Hybrid Nuke he's going to be like, oh, stop catching me, please stop catching me, and he's going to push harder, and now he's pushing harder. His primes aren't going to like it.
Please stop catching me, I won't send you more gifts, I promise.
I tell you, it's down to 2.5 seconds.
1 second in the first sector. That's how much these prime tyres are hitting Hybrid Nuke. He needs that pit stop window to come imminently.
If he pits this lap, he won't make it. Well, he'll make it to the end, but that final lap will be awful. He'd get an undercut, but the final lap would probably negate that. Let's see what Acorn can gain in Sector 2. I mean, he's not giving it up, and I don't blame him.
I think Ant retired because he had a power cut in the street, according to the YouTube chat, so that was the reason for his retirement. 2.1 seconds the gap now, another half a second.
That's a shame for Ant, that is, because I know he's been doing quite a bit of practice around the Abu Dhabi circuit, and he has said the FRR drivers next season better watch out, because he knows he's got more pace than what he's been showing already. He has been focusing... He has. I mean, Ant has been focusing on keep the car on the road. He knows he's faster. Keep the car on the road. He knows his pace will come. I think Acorn's gained even more in this final sector. It's going to be down to about 1.5 seconds, I think.
We're going to see if he crossed the line now.
No, it's gone up.
Off a bit.
So Acorn's tyres now starting to hurt.
Looks a lot closer than 2.5 seconds. I'm not sure, maybe that might have been a slight glitch or not. We'll see what it's like at the end of the first sector.
Konzo slowly catching up to Front Row Racing GP, but I think that these two are going to be in the pits at the end of this lap. It would be the right time to make that final stop. And if Richie Davey doesn't follow them, he could be finding himself in a little bit of action towards the end of this race.
And it is under 2 seconds now, but we are into that third and final pit stop window, and we know that these two are going to stop again. We're going to assume they're both going to put the options on again.
Quite possibly. It depends on what Acorn's used in the qualifying session, because I think Hybrid did do a prime run.
I think they both started on options.
Yep.
So, but they have both used the prime tyre up until this point, another half a second in the second sector, 1.4 the gap.
See, this is where I think Acorn, he could end up making a decision he might regret. They both need to pit this lap effectively, but if Acorn thinks, well, I'm catching him, I'll do one more lap, it won't work.
Yeah, curtains, and I think that's when the sort of tunnel vision mentality comes into it, where you think I'm catching him and I don't want to think about nothing else, don't need to pit, fat tyres are fine, but well, Hybrid Nuke's carried on, and so has Acorn.
That's surprising. Acorn should have pitted there, really.
Acorn should have pitted, and I think that's where the inexperience comes in. I'm not saying that, you know, he's not smart, but that's when you need to sort of know exactly what to do.
Yep. And here we go, Konzo and GP. Konzo had got in front of GP, but both of them, end of this lap, into the pits. They're not going to undercut each other, but they're both probably going to undercut Richie Davey. So this is where their experience is showing. Both of these guys decide, yeah, pit in this lap no matter what.
It's 1.016 seconds. Has Acorn gained enough in the hairpin to get DRS? We can't tell off the broadcast. Doesn't always show.
I don't think he's close enough.
He did gain down the straight a little bit.
Okay, Konzo and GP are coming out of the pits in 6th and 7th place. They've got Tempfear not that far ahead of them, but I think he's going to have another stop to do. Killer Corkin is ahead of them, and then it's Richie Davey, and it's a case of, Richie Davey, what are you going to do? Because if you don't pit this lap, you're going to get mugged.
But I think this is the point I was trying to emphasise yesterday when I said a few more people need to be smarter than what they do. It's exactly what we just discussed with Acorn. It's exactly what Richie Davey could do in this race. They need to think a little bit more. Well, my tyres are fine, my tyres are fine. You hear it at Hamilton during the actual races.
Yeah.
But the reason he's getting told this is because, no,
Hybrid into the pits.
Hybrid Nuke goes in. Acorn again cuts the pit line.
Oh dear, and he's into the wall as well. I mean, if Acorn had pitted the previous lap, race victories on the cards
you'd be
for him.
At a new winner.
Yeah, but obviously with a couple of dodgy pit entries, that might not have gone his way. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying.
Pit, so
yeah. Ah, that's true.
Might happen again.
No, Acorn is ahead. Richie Davey takes the lead, but he's going to have another stop to do. If he tries going all the way to the end on this set of tyres, he's going to end up with a puncture.
I've got a question from Laura Nico 6. Why does Front Row Racing not race in the championship but is racing in the series? We had our World Championship race yesterday. This is our World Series division.
Yeah. If that's a question of why do I not race in this one, it's because I do the commentary. Killer Corkin and Tempfear have both pitted. And
it might be Steve. It might be about GP actually. That one.
It might be
not racing the championship, but racing in the series.
Okay, with Steve, it was a case of we had a few issues with broadcasts on the World Championship level of internet quality, internet power, affecting some of the broadcasts. So Front Row Racing GP took it upon himself and said, "I tell you what, I'll do the broadcast for the last few races." It kind of killed two birds with one stone. He does the broadcast for the final few races. Front Row Racing NW, who is racing in the Sauber, has had to take a little bit of a leave. So it allowed Steve to take up a reserve drive effectively. So he gave up his seat to a reserve driver in the World Championship so that we could have a better quality of broadcast on the World Championship, and Steve gets to race as Nightwalker's reserve in the World Series. So that's why we've ended up doing that over the last few races. And fair play to Steve on that one, because he took it upon himself and said, he sort of stood up and said, you know what, I'll do this, guys, I'll help us all out. So fair play to him on that one. And to be fair,
yeah,
he has shown in the World Series that he's got the pace to beat these guys. I mean, he's not had a lot of luck in some of the races, but...
Sorry to cut you short slightly. We're just going to head end of sector 1, Acorn all over the back of Hybrid Nuke. This could be interesting down the first of the two long straights.
I tell you what is also interesting, Richie Davies just come out of the pits.
Compliments.
I think Richie Davey may have just come out the pits ahead of Konzo and GP he has. So Richie's managed to survive getting undercut there, which has surprised me a little bit.
Acorn had the DRS and still couldn't gain on Hybrid Nuke. The setup Hybrid Nuke must have much benefits him down the straights to sort of counter the DRS there from behind. And he's pulling away if anything. It was 1/10 of a second, and I'm not sure if he's just got a bit thing in the dirty air. But
quite possible. Dirty air around here is awful. Turn 3 is a good example of that one. But it's also possible as well that Hybrid Nuke has got a very good engine fuel management usage. I mean, you can turn your engine from rich to standard to lean, and you've got to use it to your maximum benefit. And for those drivers who know where to get the maximum benefit from it, you could be faster than everybody in each sector. I mean, Acorn's caught him up through this final sector. Is he going to be able to attack? I'm not so sure.
He needs to keep it together through the first 5 turns, get a good run out the hairpin and down the straight. He didn't do it on the last lap. He was this close last time.
See, turn 3. Yeah, he's gone wide on turn 3, see, that's the dirty air, and because he's gone wide, he might have overheated the tyres a little bit, which could hurt him here, but he's going for it! He wasted no time there, a bit physical, but fair play. As Tempfia posts the fastest lap. I don't think Hybrid did either. But
I think Hybrid, though, was behind him crossing the DRS point, though, so I think Hybrid Nuke had DRS.
I mean, we're into the last sort of 3-4 laps of the race, but I mean, something we haven't mentioned is, do you go for the overtake in that first DRS zone, or do you go for it in the second one?
Well, it's definitely Acorn's DRS now. But again, he just doesn't seem to be closing in down the straights.
Yeah, he can't quite gain enough. I'm wondering whether he's running quite high aeros, because he's catching Hybrid through this final sector. But when it comes to the straight line speed, he's just not quite got it. Perhaps that's why he went for the move at the hairpin. He knows he hasn't got the straight line speed. Oh, he's on the inside! Oh, and it's contact! That's Acorn facing the wrong direction. I don't want to sort of...
It doesn't look like both drivers have damage. It looks okay, but he's obviously lost the chance to win the race now.
He definitely has. I don't want to curse it, but I wonder if that's, like, with the higher aeros, perhaps he was thinking he's got to make a move somewhere in the corners because he can't do it on the straights. Oh.
2 times on that lap he went for an odd overtaking place. The first one it did stick, the second one though was ambitious at best. It was always going to be Hybrid Nuke's corner. Thankfully though he didn't take Hybrid Nuke off. No damage to either car, just apart from lost time, the only real damage in that one.
Yep. Well, the next battle on track then, it's Konzo and from a Racing GP. I'm still surprised that neither of these guys managed to undercut Richie Davey. I bet they'll be surprised as well. Perhaps they just couldn't get their tyres up to temperature for this final run.
And temp fear all over the back of Killer Corkin, so it's 4th, 5th Sauber v Ferrari and 6th, 7th Sauber v, not Ferrari, Red Bull, I beg your pardon. So, both fighting with each other, a Sauber and a Red Bull for 4th and 6th places. Temp fear making the move on Killer, and that is 6th place.
Is Killer going to have another look?
Oh, and locking up Temp fear, but good recovery considering he lost and had damage at the first corner, and as I said earlier, what could have been if he didn't have that incident.
Definitely. I mean, he's 30 seconds off the leaders now, which is not that far behind considering that he would have had a very, very slow in-lap to repair any damage. Strategy compromised. I mean, this guy, he's clearly got pace. There's no doubt about that. So, what else? Oh, I've just heard the sound of car v wall somewhere. I'm not sure exactly who it was. It definitely sounded like
GP's dropped off Konzo a little bit. I'm not sure if it was them.
It might have been, yeah, going through that final sector. And this is a situation as well for these guys now. Only a couple of laps to go. They may have just sort of settled into the positions that they're in.
Yeah, I was going to say Hybrid. Acorn is now 5.5 seconds. Hybrid's pulling away, so I think Acorns gave the fight up, and it should be a comfortable win. Just going back to that collision between the two of them, though, I'd be surprised if there's a stewards protest over that one. It was always going to be Hybrid's corner. He had the racing line. It's not an ideal passing place.
I mean, obviously, one of the rules that we have for our racing is that you've got to give cars room. But obviously, there is the exception of if someone's going for a dive bomb. I mean, whether it was a dive bomb or not, I don't know. I'd have to have another look at it. But it is one of those things where, yeah, go for an overtake, but you've got to make sure that if you're going for an overtake, you're doing it in a safe-ish manner. And in that particular corner, I would say he's come from a little bit too far back there to give the driver ahead any chance.
What we don't know is if Hybrid Nuke maybe was a little bit out of shape on the exit, so he was quite slow, and that's where Acorn got the room to dive for.
Quite possibly.
It's difficult looking from the television cameras that we were looking at whether that was the case, but yeah, it's 6.6 seconds now. I think he's just nursing the car home. He's got a big enough gap to Richie Davey, nearly 10 seconds, so he should comfortably finish second. And at the moment, Richie Davey looks comfortable in third. Just no threat from behind.
No, Konzo and GP can't quite catch him up. Temp Fear's pulled away from Killer Corkin. Konzo, I tell you what, I think GP's catching him up a little bit on these last couple of laps. And Temp Fear is only the start-finish straight behind these two. So if anything happens, he's there to benefit from it.
Interesting conclusions to the World Series. The final F1 race on 2015 before we head into the new year and start all over again with season 2.
Yep. Well, season 2, yes, on F1 2015, but I did work it out that it will be season 6 of Front Row Racing's history. So I think for next season we might have to go to calling it season 6 and get into that process then of continuing that on. I don't know. Yeah. It might confuse a few people if you keep have season 1s and season 2s. I don't know. It depends on what we decide to put on the pictures.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about that. It's just obviously if you talk about, like, for example, F1 2015, and then you have another first one we had or the second one we have, and I think I just put season 1 and 2 just to sort of define it. Like do you remember the American race on F1 2015 we had? Well, which one are you on about, this first championship or the second championship?
Pro Racing GP is right over the gearbox of Konzo now, and Temp Fear is catching these guys quick. If these guys get fighting too much, they could end up allowing Temp Fear to gain. So we're on to the final lap then. Hybrid Nuke still leading the way.
I tell you what, something really, really interesting. Richie Davey isn't far behind Acorn. Like, literally 2 seconds. He has come from out of nowhere and could possibly be on for second place here.
I wonder then whether Acorn did perhaps get a little bit of damage or has burnt his tyres up. Well, something I'd noticed in my practice sessions, as from a Racing GP is going to have DRS here, is you can have a little bit of damage on your front wing, but it doesn't look like you've got any damage on your front wing. So for us visually, the front wing will look fine, but actually there's a little bit of damage there. And if he's got that, he will lose lots and lots of time.
And of course, not forgetting as well, he did pit like 3 laps later after these, so his tyres are a lot fresher. So, well, we've got half a lap to go, and I'm telling you, he's like a second behind. This could be interesting. Oh,
from a Racing GP, he's trying to go around the outside of Konzo, through the triple chicane. He's got the move done. Well, let's quickly go and jump onto Hybrid Nuke, who's going to be crossing the line any moment now. If you want to keep an eye on that Konzo battle for us, Pete, in case anything happens. Yeah. Hybrid Nuke takes victory then here in Abu Dhabi, and Richie Davey is in third place. Oh, you're right. Richie's just been catching. Can he do anything in the final corner to steal second place? I don't think he can.
Stephen. Konzo, still Stephen fourth. And look at Temp Fear going for the two when he touched. It's going to be the same
thing. Temp Fear's there as well. I think Konzo's ahead.
Oh, that was a weird one at the end of the race.
That was a very weird one.
In 7th.
I think Killer will be disappointed with 7th place there. Eraser in 8th. It was so difficult to tell what happened between the Red Bull and the 2 Saubers at the end there.
I just see attempts being launched at the 2 of them into the last corner and contact.
I'm watching Eraser here in 8th. Adam 4600 not that far behind, but he's all over the place. Yep, through the wall, up the wall, in the fence, in the crowd. But in 9th place. Yeah. But we'll have to come up with a new saying on that one.
Andy Russell's saying he's in 9th and Adam 4600
oh,
10th.
That'll be my mistake then. Yeah, there'll be Adam might be a lap down there. And with the amount of lag that Adam's got, it could be a bit confusing on that one, but we'll see what the timing screen says at the end. But anyway, Hybrid Nuke takes victory on the road, with Acorn 2nd place, Richie Davey in 3rd. A very interesting race throughout that, I must admit.
Definitely. We've just got a quick question just before we go to the interviews. How do you join Front Row Racing? Add us on Facebook, message the page. Our season's finished for the time being, but I'll post the link in anyway and you can just check that out for us. Loads going on. We do Project Cars, F1 2015 of course, so yeah, just check out the Facebook page, tell us what you think.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing, check out the Facebook page, send us a message, and then join the FRRI days. That's the feeder system into the F1 leagues, and it's worked really well this season, the FRRI days has. I mean, we've got drivers like Hybrid Nuke, Acorn, Temp Fear, Ant 69 that have been involved in this race that have all come through the FRRI days sort of reserve system. It's worked very, very well this season.
Got a penalty at the end of that.
He did. That puts Front Row Racing GP in 4th place. So we'll get ready for the podium interviews then. I did message Konzo before the race saying, even if you don't end up on the podium, I am going to send him a podium invite. And that's because Konzo is the World Series champion. So we'll invite the top 3 in then. So Acorn 95, who came 2nd place. Be Richie Davey and Hybrid Nuke, who came 1st. Richie Davey, who came 3rd. And Konzo, who is the new World Series champion. So we'll invite those in. So you have to start thinking of some questions, Pete. I'm sure I've got a few. We'll take a quick brief.
I'll let you take the lead. I might just ask the odd one or two.
That's fine with me. If I'd have been prepared enough, the squirrel could have come and asked a few questions. Okay, so Richie Davies in with us. So Richie, if you can just make sure you got your microphone set to share, and remember, we are live. Please try not to swear. So as we wait then for Hybrid Nuke and Acorn and Konzo to join us as well. It was a very interesting race then. It's been a very interesting season in the World Series. There's always been something going on, and what a better way to end the final race with a number of cars very, very close over the start-finish line. So you can see on the screen there, Hybrid Nuke's chatting away to someone, probably chatting away to Steve. So Hybrid, stop talking, get in here. I'm guessing he's heard me because I think he's on his way. There we go. Okay, so Hybrid Nuke's joined us then. So Hybrid, if you'd like to just make sure that you have got your microphone set to always allowed to share.
It is.
Now, Acorn missed out on a podium interview last week, but he is now aware about podium interviews, so hopefully he will have spotted the chat party invite. Konzo, I think, has just been having a chat with Steve as well. So he'll be on his way in a moment. There we go. So Konzo is in. So Connor, if you can just quickly make sure that you've got your microphone set to share. And remember, we are live, so please try not to swear.
I already know you've been talking about me anyway, so.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh no.
Okay, so while we're waiting then for Acorn to come and join us on the podium interviews, we'll get on with the questions. So Hybrid Newt taking the victory here. Got a bit hairy on a few occasions. Got a bit close. So what's your overriding feeling at the end of that race?
I think that was probably my best race. You know, when you're just hitting the same apex the same time, you're doing the same gear, lap after lap. It was just so consistent. So
you'd say
no complaints from this side of the
you'd say
garage.
that was your most consistent race that you've had this season then?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I've just spotted as well that Acorn has joined us. So Acorn, if you can just make sure you've got your microphone set to allowed to be shared, and don't swear when we come to you. We'll continue on with Hybrid. The first corner, we don't know exactly what happened. We've seen Temp Fear go spearing off the track. You get out into the lead with Acorn right up your gearbox. Was that first stint difficult, knowing he was so close and so aggressive? And then when you perhaps spotted that he'd gone to the prime so early, what was your thinking of your strategy from there?
First off, that first corner, I don't know what happened either. I got a little bit of understeer and then carried on, but I felt all right. I was trying to fiddle about with my my fuel and all that, and then he pitted. I thought, great, let's just carry on.
So into the final stages of the race, you get rid of your prime tyres. He's been catching you. Are you surprised he didn't go for an undercut on you on that final stint?
No, I played a little bit cheeky. Where the lap before we both pitted was I dropped back a little bit just to draw him in to kind of make sure he didn't pit.
All right.
If I was him, I wouldn't have pitted because I would have thought, hey, I'm catching him still, let's carry on.
Oh,
And then when he didn't pit, I carried on pushing.
sneaky tactics then. Okay, so you make the final stop, you come out ahead of him. Do you think you've got it in the bag? And what was you thinking? Or did you even know that he'd gone for that second overtake on that one lap where he went for two brave moves?
Was it the same lap? There was
Yes.
nothing I could do on those. I mean, I was already mid-turn.
Yeah.
So I'd say, you know, there were still 4 more laps to go. Maybe hold off a bit and get me on the straight. But, you know, as soon as that happened, I was obviously going to win.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, so we'll come back to you in a few moments' time. So, Acorn, have we got you on the microphone?
Yeah, you got me, mate. That's fine.
Okay. Second place on the road. The first thing I'm going to mention is, did you struggle for straight line speed? Because every time you was close to him and had DRS, you couldn't get past him.
Yeah, well, it reminded me a bit like Alonso on Petros in 2010. It was like, I was alright through the corners, but on the straights it just had too much really. But yeah, we drove well to be fair.
Okay, so you were struggling a bit for the straight line speed. Is that then what perhaps tempted you to go for those overtakes in the corners in places where you may not have expected? Because were you aware that you had to make a move in the corner rather than on the straight?
Well, I think I couldn't go for the moves. I think it would have been a pretty boring race to be fair, because I was yawning behind him.
I was driving down the straight with my hand on my chin.
Oh dear. So here's a question for you then. The final pit stops. Did you think about undercutting him? And why didn't you undercut him? Because had you have pitted a lap before he did, you'd have come out ahead of him by a good 3 or 4 seconds.
To be honest, I didn't even think about that at all. I just went by the pit lap and just was one lap earlier, but they had the same plan that looked at it. So.
Okay, well, an interesting race, very interesting end to the race as well. Did you have any damage after the collision? Because once that happened, it looked like Richie Davey was able to catch up quite quick.
Yeah, well, I hit the wall now, and
Okay, so it was a little bit of damage. Well, very unfortunate, but also second place on the road there. So well done to you. We'll move on to Richie Davey then. Richie, third place. Well done. Did it annoy you when Front Row Racing GP undercut you and come out of the pits ahead?
Nah, man.
Did you think he was going to be able to do it again on the next round of stops? And did that make you pit a little earlier than perhaps you wanted?
I knew what I had it in the bag. I knew it.
You knew it. Okay. Last lap.
Everyone was pitting before me, like, so.
Yeah. Well, they were doing it because there were big gains to be had, and throughout most of the race it worked. But what I'm more interested in for your race, from your point of view, is those last few laps where you see you're catching Acorn, and just how close was it to the line? Did you think you was going to get him?
Yeah, I thought I had him, man, to be fair.
Well, it was very, very close. A man of a few words. Go on.
One more lap.
Isn't it always the way, though? One more lap and I've had you. Yeah.
One more lap.
One more lap.
Could have took the whole field with just one more lap.
Okay. Pete, have you got any questions you'd like to ask our top three drivers there?
I asked the chat if they had anything they wanted to say. 10th here at the start.
Don't know. I got a little bit of understeer and then I was in the corner, through the corner, and then I had a. So I don't know.
The other one sort of addressed the hybrid as well. Is he looking forward to getting his ass up next season?
I'm up for the challenge. Bring it on.
Well,
There's your answer to that one.
Yep.
Those who are watching.
Okay, so that's the top three we've had a little bit of an interview with there. And obviously we've got Conzo in here as well, the new World Series champion. So, Connor, what's your overriding feeling of how the season's gone? How did your race go? And what do you think you're going to be capable of for next season?
Okay. Well, I think this race was pretty interesting anyway because I was going to do the Champions Challenge, so start from the back. Started in the primes as well, so I was just to see how I was going to get on. But me and GP had a pretty good race there at the end. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Oh, we did.
Yep, we did.
Obviously, you would have seen how much of an undercut he got on you. Did that then make you think, right, I'm pitting same time he is, I'm going to go for the undercut on those final stops because we both may get Richie?
Well, yeah, we were thinking that. But the minute, I think it was 3 laps after the last stint, I don't know, lap was 22 or something, he started pulling away a bit, and then that was kind of it, so I just had to try and hold GP behind me.
So, what did happen in those last few corners?
Well,
Did you run out of fuel?
no, I didn't.
No,
I was marginal for the whole race. So yeah, it was pretty. I think what happened coming out of, I don't know which corner it is. It's double left-hander.
Yes.
I think he slowed down a bit too quickly than I thought he was. So I went just kind of touched him a little bit on the back of his car, and then he moved right, looking like he was giving me the place, and then he braked the same time as what I did, and he just kept on going.
Well, it was a very close end to the race. Not a close end to the season, because you have taken the championship by some margin. So, very well done to that. So, that's pretty much me done for any questions. Have you got anything else, Pete?
Yeah, just one more question for Richie Davey. Obviously, you've had not the greatest of seasons, but obviously you've got a podium to end it. You're going to come back stronger next year.
Well, Richie's left the chat, so I'll answer that one. Yeah.
Got it in the bag.
Yeah. Keep the front wing. Yeah.
Sorry if you watched this back.
Yeah. He'll be all right. He'll be all right with it. Okay, so we'll bring our proceedings to an end. Then it has been a fantastic season in front row racing and in the front row racing World Series. We're going to have about a month break now until the seasons get going again. But that's not all of the action finished for front row racing on YouTube. Tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m, we've got the final FRRI Days event. Which will be at Abu Dhabi. That's at 7:30. So for those people that showed interest in how to join the league, send us a message, get involved in that race tomorrow. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m, we've got the PCF Project Cars Fridays round 10, the final round of that particular season. I can't remember what track it is, but that'll be on YouTube at 9 o'clock. And then Sunday at 8:30 will be the PCS round 10 at 8:30. So that's pretty much all from us. I've been from a Racing DP. He's been Peter Nigel Mambell. We'll see you all again soon.
Bye.